What would you do if you had superhuman strength, capable of defeating an entire army with your bare hands? If you were the most powerful man of your time, but one mistake took it all away? Today, I'm going to tell you the story of Samson, the strongest man in the Bible, a hero destined to save his people, but who ended up falling because of his greatest weakness, love. Samson was no ordinary warrior. His power did not come from training or weapons, but from something far more extraordinary. Even before he was born, he was marked by destiny. He was chosen, someone with a special mission, to protect Israel from its enemies, the fearsome Philistines. But like every great story, Samson's tale is not just one of victories, it is also one of betrayal, vengeance, and redemption. A man with unmatched strength, but with an Achilles heel that would lead to his downfall. In this video, we will go through his life from beginning to end. We'll discover his feats, his fatal mistakes, and the incredible way he found redemption at the last moment. So stay until the end, because the story of Samson is not just an epic tale, it's a warning about how our greatest strengths can also become our worst weaknesses. To understand who Samson was, we first need to know the world he was born into. At that time, the people of Israel were living under the rule of the Philistines, a powerful warrior nation that oppressed them mercilessly. The people were desperate, without hope, until a miracle happened. One day, an angel appeared to a barren woman and gave her an astonishing message. You will give birth to a son, but there is something special about him. From birth, he will be consecrated to God. He must never cut his hair, because his strength will reside in it, and his destiny will be to free Israel from the Philistines. When Samson was born, his mother followed every rule given to her. And from an early age, it was clear that this child was unlike any other. While other children were just learning to walk, Samson already had a strength that defied logic. The first sign of his power. As Samson grew, his strength was so impressive that no one could match him. But his first real test came when, on a journey, he encountered a hungry lion. Imagine the terror, a lion roaring, slowly approaching, ready to attack. Anyone else would have run or tried to defend themselves with a weapon. But Samson needed nothing. With his bare hands, he grabbed the lion and tore it apart as if it were a piece of cloth. It was clear that his power was unmatched. A young man with a mission, but also with impulses. From a young age, Samson knew he had a purpose. He knew his strength was a divine gift to free his people. But here is where we start to see the other side of the coin. Because although he was incredibly strong, he was also impulsive, proud, and had one weakness: women. His first great love story was with a Philistine woman. His family tried to warn him. Why do you want to marry a foreign woman when there are so many among our people? But Samson didn't listen. He was in love and would do anything for her. And this was the first major mistake in his life, because the Philistines would use this love against him. Here is where Samson's true story begins. A man with the most incredible gift, but also with a weakness that would lead to his downfall. Samson's strength was unparalleled. He was not just a strong warrior, he was a true force of nature. He could face an entire army without fear. But the most impressive part of his story is that, time and again, he defeated the Philistines with almost supernatural ease. The wedding and the first conflict. Determined to marry the Philistine woman, Samson organized a grand wedding. But during the celebration, he decided to play with the guests and proposed a riddle. If you can solve my riddle, I will give you 30 linen garments. But if you cannot, you will give them to me. The Philistines, desperate not to lose, used Samson's wife to extract the answer from him. She, after insisting and crying, managed to get Samson to reveal the solution, and then the Philistines won the bet by cheating. This enraged Samson so much that he went out and killed 30 men just to take their clothes and pay his debt. His fury was uncontrollable, and the Philistines began to see him as a real threat. Samson versus the Philistines. The tension between Samson and the Philistines kept growing. At one point, they sent soldiers to capture him, but Samson did something unthinkable. With the jawbone of a donkey as his only weapon, he faced 1,000 soldiers and defeated them alone. 1,000 warriors against one man, and he defeated them effortlessly. This act turned him into a true legend. His name became synonymous with power, and his story spread throughout the land. The Philistines, terrified, realized they could not defeat him in a fair fight. The beginning of his downfall. But like every great warrior, Samson had a weakness. His confidence made him believe he was invincible. And the Philistines, instead of attacking him with armies, began to look for a different strategy. They knew his strength was unmatched. But what about his heart? This is where the woman who would change his fate forever enters the story, Delilah. Samson, the strongest man of all, was about to face his greatest enemy. And this time, it wasn't soldiers or weapons, but a betrayal that would lead him straight to ruin. Samson had defeated entire armies. He had made the Philistines tremble with his inhuman strength. But what no one had achieved with swords or soldiers, one person would accomplish. Her name was Delilah. A dangerous love. Delilah was beautiful, seductive, and mysterious. Samson, who was never good at resisting a woman's charm, fell madly in love with her. But there was a problem. Delilah was not on his side. The Philistine leaders approached her with an irresistible offer. Find out the secret of his strength, and we will give you a great reward. Delilah did not hesitate. And so, the game of betrayal began. Delilah's traps. One night, while they were together, Delilah sweetly asked him, "Samson, my love, tell me, what makes you so strong? How could you be weakened?" Samson, clever, did not tell her the truth. Instead, he gave her a false answer. "If I am tied with 7 fresh bowstrings, I will lose my strength." Delilah waited for him to fall asleep and, in silence, called the Philistines. They tied him up with the bowstrings, and when she shouted, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you," he woke up and snapped the bowstrings as if they were threads. Delilah, furious, accused him of not trusting her. And she tried again. "Samson, if you love me, tell me the truth." Samson gave her another false answer. "If I am tied with new ropes, I will lose my strength." Delilah tied him up again while he slept, called the Philistines, but once again, Samson broke the ropes with ease. Delilah insisted over and over again. She pressured him, manipulated him, and made him feel guilty. Until finally, Samson could resist no more. The truth is revealed. Tired, Samson confessed the true secret of his power. "My strength is in my hair. If it is cut, I will be like any other man." That same night, while he slept on her lap, Delilah called a man to cut his hair. When it was done, Delilah shouted once more, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." But this time, Samson could do nothing. His strength had disappeared. The Philistines captured him, gouged out his eyes, and took him as a prisoner. The strongest man in history had been defeated without a single sword being raised. And the worst was yet to come. The betrayal and fall of Samson. Samson, the invincible man, was now just a shadow of what he once was. They took him prisoner to Gaza, the city of his enemies, and there they humiliated him in the worst possible way. A hero reduced to nothing. The Philistines had not only cut his hair and captured him, they also gouged out his eyes, leaving him completely blind. They forced him to grind grain in a prison, like a beast of burden. Imagine it, the most powerful warrior, now chained, blind, and ridiculed by those he once terrified. For the Philistines, this was an absolute victory. But what they did not know was that this story was not over yet. The fatal mistake. Full of pride, the Philistines decided to hold a grand celebration in the temple of Dagon, their god. Thousands of people gathered to mock Samson and celebrate his defeat. Overconfident, they brought Samson to the temple to display him as a trophy. They placed him between two enormous pillars and forced him to entertain the crowd. But there was one small detail no one noticed. His hair had started to grow back. Samson's final prayer. Samson, humiliated and weak, did the only thing he had left to do. He lifted his face to the sky and, with a broken voice, prayed, "Lord, give me strength one last time. Let me take revenge on the Philistines for what they have done to me." Suddenly, Samson placed his hands on the two main pillars of the temple and began to push with all his might. The final sacrifice. The structure began to creak. The people screamed. Panic took over as the enormous columns started to shake. And with one final effort, Samson pushed with all the strength he had left. The columns gave way. The entire temple collapsed, crushing everyone inside, including the Philistine rulers and Samson himself. That day, Samson killed more enemies in his death than he had in his entire life. And so ended the story of the strongest man to ever live. Not with a personal victory, but with a sacrifice that became his ultimate redemption. And so ended the story of Samson, the strongest man who ever lived, but also the one who suffered the most because of his own weaknesses. Hero or tragedy? His story is one of great victories, but also of fatal mistakes. He had an unmatched power but did not know how to control his heart. His overconfidence and love for Delilah led him straight to his downfall. Samson teaches us that true strength is not just in muscles or abilities, but in the wisdom and character to make good decisions. Because in the end, it was not the Philistines who defeated Samson. It was his own impulsiveness, lack of control, and blind trust in someone who did not deserve it. What do you think? Do you think Samson was a true hero or a man trapped by his own destiny? Was he a victim of betrayal, or did he simply fail to manage his weaknesses? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I want to know what you think. And if you like this video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more epic stories like this one. See you in the next video. Until next time.